Welcome to Blonde Cards and Crafts. Let's make something together. Hello crafters and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be making 3 cards using the Papercraft Society box, and this is box number 21. This box is by Helen Griffin from Simply Made Crafts, and the box, what comes inside of it, Helen has designed it up so that you can make some journals with it. Now, I'm basically a card maker, so making these albums or journals isn't really what would interest me. But what I'm going to make is 3 cards. Now, I'll leave a link down below to the unboxing of this for where you can get it at craftstash.co.uk or from craftstash.co.us. And I'll also leave some links to the products, etc. that I use. But let's have a look at the cards that I make using this craft kit. So my first card is a rocker card, and I just love the idea of this. This would sit on your mantle or shelf and it will rock like so. There are space that you can write a sentiment inside, or you can write a sentiment on the back of the card. But this will be the first card we're going to make. The second card we're going to make is what's called a wiper card, and this is the wiper card we'll make. And it's called a wiper card because this happens when you pull it apart. So I have used some of the papers, the stamps, the dies, etc. to make this card. So this will be card number 2 that we'll make. And then card number 3 is called a swingfold or a swinging 10-fold card, and it's because it does this, and I love it. This card makes me smile and brings me so much joy. There are some great tutorials out there as well as dies for making both a swingfold card or the wiper card by Made to Surprise, but you won't need dies for this. We're going to make these just using the products in the kit, and this is the back of this card. So they're the 3 cards that we're going to make today. You can either craft along with me, or you can sit back, relax and enjoy my video. For our first card, I have this circle, and I have die cut it out at a 7-inch diameter. Now you could use plates, you could use a circle cutter, whatever you have at home. You don't particularly need dies, but that's what I've used. I'm going to use my scoreboard to score a line right down the middle. But again, you can just take your circle and fold it in half, because this is going to be our base and this is the part that's going to rock. Now, once we have that done, we're going to need a couple more circles. So if you have a plate with a side plate and a saucer, you'll be able to do this. But I have my base there ready. Next, we're going to move on to our next piece. And I'm going to die cut out this circle in blue as well as one in white. Now this one, I have used the stamps that came in the kit, and I have stamped this to look somewhat like the patterned paper I'm going to use. And to do that, I took some of the stamps that came on the stamp set, and I love that little postage stamp marked one. And I also use the sorry you're leaving. You don't really see that little sentiment in there, but that's what I used. I also have die cut out, as you can see, that piece of patterned paper, and that came in the kit. With this circle, I was going to score it down the center so I'd have a halfway line, but I just want to show you that you can put this on the rocker. You don't need a second one in white. What I want to do is I want it kind of to pop. So I have a white circle the same size. I'm going to put that onto my rocker. And then what I've done is I've taken the patterned paper that I stamped myself. I've cut that in half, and I'm going to sit that down at the bottom half. So I just feel the white piece, I just felt that it looked better because I'm going to add our pattern paper on top of this. And when that sits on top, I just like the look that I got from that. You'll also see on the screen that I put the measurements for the pieces and parts that I use, so you'll have an idea of what I'm using. Okay, so let's assemble our card. I've sped everything up now. I'm putting my white circle on top of my rocker base. Then I'm going to take my piece of blue pattern paper that I made, and again I cut this in half, and I'm going to glue that down towards the bottom. So it just comes up level with the top of our folded circle. Then on top of that, I'm going to glue down the pattern paper that came in the kit. And I love the look of this. I think it turns out as quite, it's a masculine make, I feel. And I try to make some masculine cards when I'm crafting, because I just find a lot of card kits and things, they're all kind of, they're orientated, I think, more towards the female, you know, flowers and butterflies and things like that. So I like that I'm able to make a masculine make out of this. There's Buster, he's just toddling off. Okay, so you can see here I stamped some of the images, and I stamped them onto the craft card that came in the kit. And I then used some of my Distress ink, the vintage photo, to go around the edges. And then I matted them with some of my blue paper that I used to make my blue pattern paper. I just felt that the blue border around my stamped images helped them to pop off the pattern paper. So I'm just sticking them down. Some of them are stuck directly down and some I have put foam tape behind. I have a couple of little pieces left over, so I'm going to pop them on the back. And then that's more or less our card. All we need to do is put some embellishments on them. And for that, I used some Nuvo drops. And the ones I have used are Nuvo crystal drops. And they're called Dirty Bronze Metallic. Dirty Bronze. Lovely. I love that. I'll put links as well to products that I've used, as well as links to the kit at the description underneath this video. I do go ahead off screen and I stamp some sentiments that I have from my stash. There are sentiments that come on the stamp set, but I wanted to use something different. So inside I have stamped, we do not remember days, we remember moments. And then on the back I have stamped Bon Voyage. And that is basically our first card, our rocker card. You can see here I'm tapping the Nuvo drops. I find that when you put them on, sometimes they'll have a point. If you do that, it helps to dome them over. And there you go. There's our card with our stamp sentiments. Lovely. And now we're moving on to card 2. Card 2 is a wiper card, and again I'm going to use some of the stamps in the stamp set that we got. I've stamped out the butterfly a number of times. I have then embossed the ink stamping with clear embossing powder, and we do get a lovely pink that comes in the kit as well as a blue, but I used a pink from my stash to stamp them down. I felt it matched better with the colours in the paper. I stamped the little suitcase, I coloured it in. I also stamped the sentiment, new place, new dreams, new memories. And then on the back of my card, I stamped sorry you're leaving, as well as a couple of butterflies. And I'll pop one of my stamped and fussy cut butterflies onto the back as well. There are dies that you can get for making a wiper card, but I have not used dies for this. So I've cut out 2 pieces at 8 1/4 by 5 3/4, and I've scored them both then at 1 1/2 and 3. And I've done that to both of these, but one I will flip over so the score lines will be on the right hand side, and then this one the score lines will be on the left hand side. And when they're stuck together, this is what our wiper card base will be like. So that's how that's going to look. Now we need to embellish it. So I have a piece of patterned paper and a piece of white card, and they measure 5 by 5 1/2. And that'll be the size of our finished card. So the white one will go on the back like so. And I will make an envelope for this. using my envelope punch board. Okay, so now I have 4 strips of patterned paper, and I want to be sure that these 4 strips, you know, they match up. They're 1 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'll put 2 on the front like so, and then these 2 strips will go on the back in between our score lines as well. I also have this piece. This panel measures 3 by 2 1/4, and then I'm going to pop 3 of my stamped and fussy cut butterflies on the front. Now this panel, I'm going to actually move this more to the right than the left. We have our little piece here. This is our wiper piece that's going to pop up. And then we have our wiper mechanism. So our wiper mechanism measures 2 by 5. And on the bottom left-hand corner, I've measured up 1.5 inches. And from the bottom left-hand corner, I've measured over 1.5 inches. I've then joined those 2 markings with a score line. And what I will do is I will burnish that score line really well by folding it over and back, because this piece is going to be the movement inside our card. Now I've used 300 GSM cardstock for this piece, but you can use something a little lighter if you like. Then our suitcase will sit on top here, but I'm going to cut our mechanism down to fit inside, and I'm going to do that shortly. Okay, so I'm speeding everything up, and I'm going to add our pattern paper to the front as well as our 2 panels. And you'll see here again that I'm using my liquid glue. I like to use the liquid glue because I feel it gives me a little bit of wiggle room to get the patterned paper on straight. I tend to get things wonky when I use a tape roller or when I use double-sided tape, so I like to stick to the liquid glue. And my favorites of the liquid glue would be the Art Glitter Glue or the Nouveau Glue. But there's a load of different glues out there. There's Cosmic Shimmer and the Barely Art Glue as well. So it's just whatever your preference is really. So I have my sentiment panel stuck down, and now I'm going to stick down the 2 patterned papers. Lovely. Okay, so now we need to work on putting our mechanism in. I'm going to stick one side of the front down, and I'm going to stick the other side of our front later. But this will help us to put our mechanism piece inside. And we want to stick down that folded corner to the front piece. You can pop the mechanism in when you have one side of the card stuck down like what I'm doing here, or you can do it when you have the card assembled. But I like to do it this way. I find it's easier to see where I'm placing the mechanism and how far down I want to go. So you can see there I've stuck the corner down, and now we want to stick down our little pop-up piece. So we need to make sure that this is going to fit in between those 2 score lines. I'm going to cut off some of the mechanism because it's a bit long, and I need my adventure piece to come in just inside those score lines on the right hand side. So it's still a little bit too long. It's not going in there nicely, and that's the great thing about not having stuck down the card front to the card back. I find it just allows you to make little changes, and you can slow this video down and re-watch it to see how I've done that. But for time's sake, I have kept this fast to get through this video and the 3 cards we'll make. So now we have our adventure and our suitcase stuck down, and you can see there I didn't like the look of it popped up so high from the suitcase on the acetate, so I've taken that down. I've cut the acetate down a little bit, and I'm going to stick it a little bit closer, and now this now moves lovely. I'm really delighted with that. Okay, so now I'm going to put down my sentiment. I'm putting a little phone tape behind that just so it lifts it up off the front of the card and gives a little dimension to it as well. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick down my butterflies. Now you can use liquid glue and stick them flat or stick them, you know, give them a bit of dimension. I like to use my hot glue. I put a dollop, if that's the right word, behind each of the wings. And I find when the glue then dries and hardens, it will keep my wings into the lovely shape that I have curved them. So there's the extra one. I'm going to pop that onto the back. And again, I'll use the hot glue for the dimension for those. So there we go, card 2. Now, the back of where our little suitcase pops up, sometimes when you have acetate and different things on it, it can look a little bit untidy. So I'm going to stamp out the suitcase again, fussy cut that out, and then put some double-sided tape behind my suitcase. Now I could have put it on the piece that I stamped and fussy cut out. I'm putting it on the little mechanism itself. I like to do things the hard way. But I'm just going to pop that behind there. So when you look at this from the back, it looks nice and tidy and neat. And I absolutely love it. Now, once you move your wiper mechanism a couple of times, that will automatically go into the position for it to sit down there nicely. So I'm delighted with that. I think it worked out well and looks good too. And now we're moving on to card number 3, and this is a Swingfold or Swingfold tent card. I have a piece of cardstock here measuring 12 by 6. I've scored it on the long side at 6, and then I'm going to fold it in half. And this will give us a 6 by 6 card base. But we'll have this as a top opening card. Even though it won't open at the top, we're going to add this piece to the bottom. This piece is 5 7/8 by 3 inches, and I have scored this piece at a half, at 1 1/4, and at 2. And this is going to be attached to the bottom of the card. We are going to attach it by the 2 little 1/2 inch tabs, and that will give us the tent fold. Perfect. Okay, next we have this little piece. This is the mechanism that will sit inside the card. This little piece measures 2 1/2 by 1/2 inch, and I'll score it at a half, 1 1/4, and 2. I'll fold it in half and punch a hole, and then I'll fold back my little tabs, and they are what will attach to the inside of our card. We'll glue where we have our 2 little holes there together, and that will allow for our swing piece. Okay, I have 3 pieces here. 1 is a white panel and 2 are patterned papers. They all measure 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. So one will be for the outside, the blue piece. The white piece will be for the back of the card, and then the pattern paper with the airplanes will be for inside our card. I'm going to put this gold frame on the outside, and then I have cut this tag out. We get some pattern paper with these tags, so I fussy cut that out. Then I matted it on some white cardstock. I punched a hole through and put an eyelet in it. I had some pink ribbon in my stash that I tied a bow. I also fussy cut out some of the flowers for the bottom, as well as stamped the adventure and stuck that down using some foam tape. And this will be the decorative piece that goes inside our card for our swinging piece. I have a piece of acetate for my mechanism, so my little tag, it'll just seem to be swinging freely in the air. This piece measures 2 1/2 by 3/4 of an inch, and on one end I've rounded off both corners and then punched a little hole in here. It's kind of hard to see, so I cut it out in this green card so you can see. So again, you can see there I've rounded off the corners here, punched my little hole at the top, but you can use cardstock, but I love to use the acetate. We'll also need a little brad. This is a 5mm brad that I'm going to use, and I'll join the acetate to our little mechanism piece inside. So I'm speeding everything up now, and we're going to assemble our card. I'm going to glue down the front of my card, and then I'm going to use a pencil to outline the inside border of the frame. And this frame piece, it comes inside. There's some die cut frames and images that you can pop out. I'm going to use my Fiskars trimmer. This has a wire down through the center so you can see where you're lining up. And I'm going to cut it so it's a little bigger than where I have my pencil lines. And I'll do that on all 4 sides. I'm lifting up the arm and then I'm plunging the blade down in the middle and then moving it down and then moving it up. So I'm not starting at the bottom of the pencil line, I'm actually starting in the middle. So you can see there that looks perfect. I cut it a little bit bigger than our pencil lines and I use the wire as the guide. And now I'm going to stick down my gold frame. Lovely. I think the gold frame matches the little gold eyelet I put in the tag, and it, I don't know, I think it kind of makes it look a bit elegant. I'm going to stick down now my patterned paper to the inside. Now next what you want to do is the little mechanism that we folded in half needs to go in next, but I've just jumped ahead of myself. I'm putting some glue here on one of the 1/2 inch panels and I'm sticking it down, and as I go to put glue on this piece I realize, oh, I haven't put my mechanism in. So I'm going to do that next, and I've slowed this part down. I'm just putting the glue in the middle, so when I fold it in half my little tabs are free. I'm just off the screen there, I do apologize. I'll put a little glue on one side and then I will put this little tab just below my score line in the center of my opening. Once I have that done, then I will put some liquid glue on the other little tab and close over my card. Next, you then want to take your acetate piece and your brad, and you need to add that onto that little piece. I don't. I go ahead and I stick down my little tent piece there at the bottom to the front of the card. But because we have the opening, I have no problems putting my acetate piece onto my mechanism piece inside. It's a little bit fussy to be sure, but it can be done. I was very distracted watching a new series. It's called Queen's Gambit. I don't know if you've seen it, but I'm loving it. And that's what happened there. I was one eye on the TV in my craft room and one eye on what I was doing. Anyway, you can see here that I've stuck down our little tag onto our acetate piece, and that's our focal point inside that swings over and back. I'm going to add some glue now to our white panel that will go on the back of our card, and that way we'll have a nice big space to write our sentiment. For finish, I'm going to put some Nuvo drops down, and these are Nuvo jewel drops and they're called Honeysuckle. I'm also later on, I have a look at the card and I kind of feel it's missing something off the front. So I fussy cut out different clusters of the flowers from some of the other patterned paper, and I stick them down in the top right hand corner and bottom left hand corner, and I put a little dimension in there, and you'll see that here in the video. I wanted you to see the swinging motion of our tag and our lovely clusters of flowers. I really like this card. I think it's very pretty. I hope you do too. So I hope you've enjoyed my little tutorial using the new Papercraft Society box number 21 by Helen Griffin. I hope you'll give my video a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, please click on the bell icon down below. So that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, stay safe. Bye for now.